Is a car this new supposed to have issues? Keep watching to see what I've dealt with since day one of buying this car brand new. This is my other Mazda 3, a 2022 turbo all-wheel drive. I've owned it for 3 years now, but it only has 15,000 miles on it, and that's because it's not my daily driver. This is my fun weekend car. My daily driver is a 2021 Mazda 3 non-turbo, the naturally aspirated version. I just posted a 5-year, 50,000 mile review of that one. The link is in the description in case you'd like to see that one also. All right, let's talk about this car. And this one I'm going to classify as a moderate issue. Not severe, but not exactly minor either. Shortly after I got the car, got it brand new, but shortly after I got it, I noticed a very small oil seep around the oil control valve on top of the valve cover. I do see that mentioned as a kind of frequent issue on the Mazda 3, but it was just a slight oil seep, no big deal. At least for a while it was no big deal. And several months later it turned into quite a bit more of a leak. It wasn't gushing out, but it was a little bit more than a seep at that point. Car was still under warranty, of course, so I brought it into the dealership and they replaced the gasket around the oil control valve. In fact, the gasket for the oil control valve is part of the entire valve cover gasket. And that was maybe 7,000 miles ago, and the leak has not returned. So that's good. So ever since I bought this car, from day one, between about 65 miles an hour and 75 miles an hour, there's a very low-pitched droning sound that seems to be coming from somewhere in back of the car, below it, but in back of the car. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from, but it seems to be coming from at least the center or rear part of the drivetrain. And it's not uncommon that I see this mentioned, and that's in regard to the turbo version. I don't see it mentioned too often with the naturally aspirated all-wheel drive version. But because this is all-wheel drive, the drivetrain extends to the back of the car and ends with a rear differential. So what is that all about? There's a lot of speculation that it has to do with the rear differential. If you do a little bit of digging on the turbo models, the rear differential tends to fail. I don't know exactly how common that is, but I see it mentioned an awful lot in the subreddits and in different Mazda forums. I mean, there are also a lot of people who aren't having this problem, but it's worthy of mention. But so far, 15,000 miles, haven't had the rear diff fail yet, but I've seen a lot of people mention that there's fails anywhere between just a few thousand miles. I've seen people saying that theirs went out at like 60 or 70,000 miles. And plenty more people saying that their rear diff hasn't failed yet. So, I mean, the turbo model on the Mazda 3 has only been out since 2021. So I think it's a little too early to say exactly how common it is. But so far, knock on metal, I've been fine so far, just the droning sound. And some people are saying that the droning sound is a precursor to the rear diff failing, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to fail. Another very minor issue, no big deal, is that sometimes when I put my hand on the door handle, the handle does not detect my hand being there. So sometimes it won't sense my hand and I'll have to pull my key fob out and I'll unlock the car that way. No big deal. Does the same thing on my 2021. In fact, does it at about the same frequency that it does on my 2021. So really not a big deal. I can live with that. So this problem was present when I first bought the car, and it's gone away since, just with use. The center console lid, and I mentioned this about my other Mazda 3, my 2021, does the same thing, or did the same thing, and then that problem went away on that car also. But for the first couple years or so, the center console lid just wouldn't slide back and flip open very smoothly, very ungracefully. As a matter of fact, it would just kind of get hung up as you're trying to pull it back and then swing the lid open. And then it would kind of get hung up again when you'd close the lid and then try to slide it forward, shut. But after a while, that just seemed to go away. And yet another very minor issue was not long after I got the car, I got a in-vehicle network malfunction warning. And I say that's a minor issue because it didn't affect the drivability of the car, didn't affect my ability to connect my phone and use the apps and everything. I mean, everything worked just fine with that error. It was more of just a little minor annoyance that the error would pop up and, you know, just in your face kind of thing. So all it really needed was a little software update at the dealership, and that was that. And haven't gotten it since. A lot of people mention creaks and rattles on their Mazda 3s. Not everybody. A lot of people don't. But it's mentioned quite frequently. So far, this car has not had a single creak or rattle. My 2021 did in the beginning, a little bit, and then that went away on its own. But this car hasn't had it yet. Well, so far there haven't been any major issues. Just the two moderate ones and the very few, very minor ones, and hopefully nothing major will happen for a really, really long time. It is an incredibly fun car to drive, and I'm more than satisfied with it, despite the few things. But the one thing that worries me a bit is the added complexity of this car compared to my 2021 front-wheel drive naturally aspirated version. This one has all-wheel drive and it's turbocharged, so there is more complexity and more things to eventually fail. I didn't want all-wheel drive, but that was the only drivetrain available with the turbo. Turbocharged engines generally have a shorter life expectancy than naturally aspirated ones, even though they're much more reliable than they used to be. And this is true regardless of the car manufacturer. Forced induction simply puts more strain on the engine and generates more heat. And that extra heat is not great for the longevity of the engine components. That said, it should still last many, many years with proper maintenance and go way far beyond 100,000 miles. Only time will tell for sure, but so far reports have been that even the Sky Active Turbo is very reliable for being a turbo. All right, I'll do another car review as I get deeper into the mileage with this car. All right, thanks for watching.